Okay, so when we put together the herd building day, and when we think about a guy who has worked really hard to build a list that is a ultra responsive list, there's a few people's names are on that list. It's a short list. Two next people that you have certainly epitomize that. The two next people that will be up here speaking. The first one is Frank Kern. The second one is Ryan Deiss. Both of them really get this, so we tapped into our friends and members, and we figured out let's embarrass them and make them feel guilty in coming here. Although I don't think it's possible to embarrass Frank, but hey, listen, maybe you guys can do that. So with no further ado, you had a lot of time with him yesterday. It doesn't really require any kind of introduction at all. The guy who is known as Not Tony, not Tony Robbins, so I just call him Not Tony, okay? Mr. Not Tony, Frank Kern. Here we go.
I just don't walk fast, sorry. I move slow.
Last night I'd be walking slower than that even. So.
Don't rush me, man.
Okay,
it's
take your time.
7:30 in the morning. Hey, everybody. How's it going? Well, this is when I could use the whiteboard for legitimate shit. Does this thing work? That thing on? I don't need it right now, but I will, maybe. What am I supposed to talk about, Bill? List getting stuff?
You're going to talk about whatever you want to talk about anyway, so, knock yourself out.
Okay. Whatever could we talk about? All right, so I got some new list building stuff that's working pretty good for me. The thing to, thank you very much, I'm right. I can get away with anything in this Ryan Deiss name badge here. How about this? Fuck all y'all. I'm Ryan Deiss, bitches. I'm going to say, wait a minute. I'm Ryan Deiss, bitch. Okay. What were we talking about? Oh, yeah, list. So I've discovered some stuff that's working pretty good for me. The things that you have learned through the GKIC world have worked for everybody forever. This stuff is working really well for me, and I'm just now testing it. So it's very new. I don't know if it universally works, but my suspicion is that it will, so I'd like to share it with you just to give you new stuff for me, because I like to hear new stuff myself. So I have determined that not all lists are created equal. I determined that by fucking stuff up really bad and not making money on certain promotions because I used the wrong list. So you can buy lists or you can attract lists, right? And as we have learned a gazillion times, it's like never really the thing or the creative or the offer as much as it is the list or the market. So what I'd like to talk to you about today is not really how to build a huge list, but how to build a list that buys stuff rapidly, and then how to attract that list in a way that psychologically sets them up to already know, like, and trust you before you have any interaction with them. Cool? All right. Super. So here's the deal. The way that I used to go about market research or market getting or hunting or whatever was the classic way that's worked forever, which is find out what people want and then give it to them, right? So the criteria that I learned for market selection is, I think I learned it from Jeff Paul, and then later ripped it off and said fuck a lot and claimed it as my own. But it was basically, what was it? You have to be irrationally passionate, great in number, and easily reached, right? That was like, excuse me, that was like the market criteria for what you should be after, yeah? And it worked great, made me a lot of money, I taught it, made other people a lot of money, it was fantastic. The problem with it is it kind of can be a little bit too broad, and you can end up having things be a pain in the ass. I'll give you some statistics here later. So I have created a new formula in my business that's working exceptionally well, and it begins with the selection of the market. And a good market with what I've been doing has to have 4 criteria. It has to meet 4 very, very critical, non-replaceable, non-negotiable criteria. the first thing, and this isn't step number one, this is a given, that whatever it is you're selling has to be of massive transformational value. And that really is the result that your stuff delivers has to be of massive transformational value. I like to sell expensive stuff because when you sell expensive stuff, you can spend a lot of money to acquire the sale. And when you can spend a lot of money to acquire the sale, you can market your ass off where other people cannot. You can market more aggressively. So I like to sell things now in the $8,000 to $12,000 range. So when you're doing that, the result of your information has to be of massive transformational value. So when we sell information, we're almost always selling change or improvement in our little world, right? Like I said it yesterday, no one's going to buy a course on how to make your life worse or how to lose money or how to get fatter. Actually, sumo wrestlers might, or how to screw up your children somehow or whatever, how to get even worse on drugs. So we're always trying to have improvement. So when you're examining what it is you're selling, you want the outcome of the information, if your customers applied it properly, to be something that would massively transform their lives for the better. This justifies your higher price, right? So an example of that would be I worked with someone who sold addiction recovery stuff. And this guy had a way to get people to stop smoking crack or whatever, like quickly, instead of them going to rehab 20 times and all of that crack. So that's massive transformational value, right? I mean, the guy takes his stuff, he quits smoking crack, his life has immediately changed, all is well. How to make more money, how to get more patients, whatever, massive transformational value, right? You save the business from going under, guy feeds his family, big deal. How to change a light bulb, not so transformational. Yeah, you get it? Okay. So we are taking that as a given with these criteria. So with that said, our first thing that the market has to meet, the first requirement that the market has to meet, is that they must immediately and easily recognize the value of what it is you're selling. They have to immediately and easily recognize the value of what you are selling. And I'll give you the example from which I learned this, AKA School of Hard Knocks. So I started a company over the summer, and we were selling done-for-you internet marketing. So we would go to small businesses and we would build them a direct response website with all their information on there. Then we would get them, we'd write their Google ads and we would manage their Google campaigns and we would pay for their traffic and we would just handle it for them because they didn't want to fuck with it. So we started out, oh, here it is, a little water. We started out, and being the genius that I am with a capital J, we decided to go after plumbers because I just literally pulled plumbers out of my ass. I was like, hey, fuck it, let's try plumbers. So I bought a list of 30-something thousand plumbers and got myself a partner and built a phone room, and we started cold calling these plumbers. Basically saying, do you want to buy our shit or whatever. And we did okay, but not nearly as well as I thought we would do. And I was like, what in the hell is wrong? I mean, these guys want this stuff. I would write ads, and they'd respond, yes, I want to get more plumbing customers and all this kind of stuff. And I was just like, man, this is some weird shit. So finally, after talking to like plumber number 3, 35,000 or something, I had one of the guys in the phone room. I was like, hey, man, ask them how much each new customer is worth to them. So they did, and we started asking that. And the numbers that they were feeding back to us were each new customer was worth on average about $500. Now, our thing of massive transformational value that we were selling was we could deliver, on average, without like puffery, about 10 new customers a month. Just doing some AdWords for them and, just basic internet marketing stuff. Nothing fancy, no launches, just here's your shit, here's a good website instead of a stupid one. So we would tell them that. We say, yeah, we could probably get you about 10 customers a month. It's not going to, there's not going to promise you a million of them, but 10's better than none, recession, blah, 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 blah. So I started doing the math. And what I learned was, so 10 new customers a month at $500 a customer is $5,000 increase in revenue per month for that plumber, which on the surface looks great. All right, so then I was like, well, what the hell, how does that all really shake out? So the plumber almost literally has to wade through shit to make the $5,000, right? And then he's got to pay for the trucks and pay for the meth head assistant he's got and pay the workman's comp and all this kind of shit. At the end of the day, that $5,000 probably turns into, $1,500. So we're asking him to take a chance criteria number 1 for those of you at home who are following along. We're asking him to take a chance on us strangers over the telephone and give us around, the hell are we charging him? Around $500 a month was our service, what we cost. Around $500 a month to ultimately make another $1,500 if we were not lying, right? So while he was like, it's a little bit more money, he didn't immediately recognize it. You follow me? So then I was like, well, shit, no wonder we're not having a good run with this. So then we decided to switch to chiropractors. So we take the call on the chiropractors, and we start off asking them what their average patient was worth, and they told us that they calculated this by the year, interestingly enough, where the plumber did not. I guess the chiropractors are more sophisticated. They said the average patient was worth between $6,000 and $30,000 a year. This is what they told us. I don't know if that's statistically accurate for the chiropractors here, but that's what our guys on the phone told us. So go back to what we're offering. Our magic did not change. We could get them about 10 new patients, just like we could get the plumber about 10 new dudes with broken toilets. Nothing. You're not doing anything different. But now, when we look at this, we are able to provide times 10 at the low side every month. That's an additional $60,000 worth of revenue for the year that we added to this guy's bottom line. You follow me so far? The guy's making $6,000 per patient as opposed to $500 per customer. So he was immediately more receptive, the chiropractors were. Why? Because they immediately recognized the transformational value of what we had to offer. We didn't change. Our stuff did not change. Our prices went up. We like tripled them, actually, charged a lot more money, and our conversion rates went up. So that's thing number 1 when you're selecting the herd that you want to build. You start right, like targeting the right people, and you have to really, really narrow it down. Thing number 2 is, and everybody knows this, but I'm going to say it anyway because I too have forgotten it on many, many occasions. They have to be able to afford what it is that you have to offer. So that's obvious, right? Like, don't sell to broke people. But there's a word I'd like you to write down in front of the word afford, and that is easily. You want to target people in your herd who can easily afford what it is that you have to offer. Back to our tale of woe and tragedy narrowly averted with the company over the summer. A little hoarse this morning. I think it's the cold air. Thanks for bearing with me. I didn't party last night, by the way. It was good. I tried to watch that movie with Cameron Diaz and Tom Cruise. It's horrible. You guys see that where the Tom Cruise like this rogue secret agent or something? I turned it off, even though it had Cameron Diaz in it. So anyway, easily afford. So let's go back to plumbers, right? So they're like, we make $500 a customer. It's okay. Some of them bought, whatever. Turns out from our research, I don't know if it's correct because, it's us, but our research was saying that the plumber's average guy's making about 60 to 80 grand a year. Now our stuff is about $500 a month, $6,000 a year for the plumber, right? That's 10% of his income. So can he afford it? Yes. Can he easily afford it? No. We switch over to the chiropractors, they make a lot more money, easily afford, right? If we were really smart, we would have targeted some sort of a cosmetic surgeon or something whose customer or patient value was a lot higher, who made shitloads of money, yeah? So easily afford. You want to filter all this stuff out before you even start, because what good is a shitload of leads if you can't convert them? If they're the wrong leads, you're wasting your money, or lists or herd or whatever you want to refer to them as. So piece of criteria number 3, because criteria now come in pieces, is, I've totally forgotten, oh yeah, supply. And this is something I bet you ain't never heard before unless you've taken a class from me and my man Kevin. So this is directly attributable to us specifically as information marketers, and probably nobody ever discusses this because they're not weirdos like me who stay up all night thinking about this kind of shit. But here's the thing. Whenever we make a major decision, whether it's a buying decision or a relationship decision or any like big deal decision, we play a movie in our heads of what the outcome of that decision is likely to produce. We don't consciously do this, it's just a reaction. So you've probably done it. You've contemplated getting a new car and you like envision yourself in the car. You imagine your friend's reaction to your decision to purchase the car. You do it when we all do it. When we buy a house, you envision you're sitting around the little breakfast nook with the kids or whatever, or building your bondage and domination room in the basement, Dan, or whatever it is that you want to do, right? And Bill, okay, let's keep everyone included, mainly Bill, not that there's anything wrong with that, not if that's who you are. So we all play those movies, right? The same thing happens with information product purchases, especially when they're expensive. So you have two types of people who are going to buy your stuff. People who are likely to apply your information and people who are not. Let's start with those who are not likely to apply and why they are bad. First of all, they're bad for business because if they don't apply your information, what are they not going to get ever? Exactly. So if they don't get any results, what are they unlikely to ever do? Buy your shit. Right. So it doesn't matter if you have the best information ever and it is presented in a solid gold briefcase that, like, when you open it, the light comes out, like in Pulp Fiction. It has no bearing on you. If you're selling to people who do not apply your shit, they won't get any results. That's bad thing number one about them. Bad thing number two about them is that you will ultimately get weirded out. Because if you attract people who aren't likely to apply and they don't get results, at least this happened to me, you're like, shit, is it me? Is it my stuff? Am I not doing it right? No one's doing anything. And it'll just fuck you up psychologically, and you'll feel weirded out, and it'll make you not want to sell to them anymore because it's just no fun. That's kind of why I work with small business now, because they do shit. You know what I mean? So thing number three, and most significant about those who are unlikely to apply versus those who are likely to apply, is the movie that is played in their head. So someone who is unlikely to apply plays a movie where the starring role of that movie is their own fantasy, their own sense of fiction. And we've all probably had a similar experience, whether it's with an information product or an exercise device or a diet book or whatever it may be, right? So you're contemplating the decision, and you play the movie in your head, and we'll do it with a Make Money course. You play the movie in your head, the course comes, you open it, the golden light shines out like in Pulp Fiction, no work ever occurs, the middle of the movie is like kind of cloudy, and at the end of the day, based on pure hope, somehow it works, miraculously, money falls from the sky. You drive off in the convertible with the cheerleader from high school, your high school, not an actual high school cheerleader, but the one that you liked in high school, giving the finger to all those who mocked you in the past. And that's the movie that is played by those who are unlikely to apply. And it's all fiction, and they know that it's fiction. They know it's fiction, they know it's based on hope, but occasionally they will buy anyway because it feels good in the moment to satiate that desire. And the act of purchasing makes them feel like they're doing something productive, right? So then they buy, and then they don't do anything, and then they either say you're a horrible person because they didn't open your course or do anything, and somehow you prevented them from doing it, like you put a Jedi lock on it, or whatever. And then they don't buy any more of your shit. Now let's take the flip side to those who are likely to apply, right? Those who are likely to apply, aside from all the other stuff, which is they get results and they buy more of your shit and they're just awesome, they play an entirely different movie. They play a movie that involves them utilizing your stuff. So a lot of you are here, because I know a lot of you personally, when you get a sales letter from Dan and Bill about a new thing, and it talks about like a new campaign, like the S&D campaigns or whatever, you envision yourself writing that shit out, and you say, okay, I'm going to run this Thanksgiving campaign to this group of buyers, and it's probably going to produce this result, and you're already thinking about the outcome, thinking about how you're going to apply it, right? You ever had that experience? So what happens when you're having that experience is you're pre-selling yourself before any real salesmanship on the part of the vendor occurs. So those who are likely to apply are almost pre-sold before you have to deal with them at all, which is great because there's no reason in the world to build a herd of people who aren't going to buy your shit, right? So we want to attract those who are pre-sold. So now we're attracting people who immediately recognize, no-brainer recognize the transformational value of what you have to offer, right? Who can easily afford it and who are likely to apply it. Do you think that they're likely to buy it at this stage without any miraculous salesman ability on your part? Of course they are. But we are, in fact, not done. There is one final piece of criterialism. It's a new one. Invented that word. Thank you. Criterionness, and that is benefit. And benefit is married to, happily but somewhat dysfunctionally, to recognize. Now here's the deal. You want to attract and target those who are most likely to benefit the most right now from your stuff. We'll go back to the summer debacle, okay? Started out with plumbers, not so great, right? They didn't recognize how cool we were because at the end of the day, we're gonna maybe, if we're not lying, make them $1,500 net profit after they deal with a bunch of grumpy housewives, crawl through human feces, and pay their meth addict assistant. So they're like, this is kind of stupid. So then we target chiropractors and like, yeah, this is pretty good. This will probably work. Even if these guys get me 2 patients a month, it's still worth it. Fuck it, I'll give it a shot. That works okay. Now, who would benefit the most in the small business marketplace? Probably someone whose average customer patient value was huge, right? Like a cosmetic surgeon or something. And this is by no means me saying go after cosmetic surgeons. I haven't tested that market, so I don't know. But someone like them whose average patient or customer value over the course of a year could be $25,000 to $100,000. They're most likely to benefit the most from what we have to offer right now. I haven't changed the offer, have I? At all. I've just changed the sites that I'm pointing the gun at. You understand? So those are the 4 criteria of a good market that you want to go after. It works to find someone who's irrationally passionate, great in number, and easily reached, but it works a lot better to find people who meet these criteria. Your target may be smaller, but your ROI per lead generated is much greater. So, I'm kind of burning through this. This is great. I'm going to have an early lunch. All right. Y'all with me so far? I know it's Sunday and we're like doing work and stuff, and I'm not telling as many jokes, but I really want you to get results and make money as a result of our experience together. So, thus the serious tone of the teaching. So now that we have our target, we got to attract them right. So the model of lead attraction that I learned that worked and served me well, I have several million reasons on my bank statement to be grateful to this lead attraction method, is the one that's been around forever. And that is bribe them into coming into your funnel by offering them cool free shit. Right? It's worked great for me. It's worked probably great for a lot of you guys. The old free report reveals something cool. Yeah, enter your email address here. Free report reveals awesome shit. Call this number for a 24-hour free recorded greeting. I actually ran one of those old school JPDK ads, and it still works to this very day. They still call and leave their number for the 24-hour free recorded greeting, which is great. The problem, if we have to find a problem with that methodology, and that's a big if we have to fuck with it and find something wrong with it, is that the people coming into the funnel are coming into your funnel. When they respond to that, they're coming in like this. Because they're like, I'm pretty sure this is a bait and switch. You know, I'm pretty sure this cocksucker's going to try to sell me something. And they're right. You know, we are going to try to sell them. I mean, of course we're going to try to sell them something. You know, and it's not like just us. That model of attracting leads has been around forever. Like, you know, back in 1904 when Dan was selling life insurance or whatever. No, not that any of this is remotely true, by the way, but let's just hypothetically say, you know, when you offer the free consultation, I'd like you to come in for a free consultation about your insurance needs. No one's going, okay, how nice of them. I mean, they'll come in, it'll work, but they know there's going to be a pitch, and that's okay, it's fine. The model works, it's fucking awesome, all right? But it leads to a lot of effort having to be put into the process of selling, yeah? So I'll give you an example from my own launch. The last product that I launched was a product called List Control, and that was launched in the beginning of the year. I really can't remember, that's embarrassing. It was launched earlier in the year, in one of the months that had a vowel in the name, which followed January, okay? In the launch of that product, I generated 80-something thousand. It was like 70-something or 80. It was a fucking lot. Between 75 and 85,000 people, I can't remember, on my list that came into my funnel during that launch, all right? I had the endorsement of every single major player in my marketplace. Every single one of them sending out my shit saying, Kern is fucking awesome. I had a video of a dude who was 12 or 13 like talking about how much money he had made with my shit. So I was able to be like, look, man, I can't guarantee you're going to make money, but Jesus, come on, 12 or 13? I mean, surely you can do better than this guy, right? I had Tony Robbins saying that I was great. I had affiliates fighting each other to try to sell the most of my stuff by offering huge, great, generous bonuses to all those who bought through their links. Despite all of those advantages, I sold 2,000 copies, which was my goal, 2,000 copies. So if you just divide the list, let's say it's 75,000, that's what, like 3% of the list? I converted it 3% with all of that work, with all of that shit. Best guys. Oh, this guy's amazing. Every single person. I was everywhere. You couldn't turn on the computer in our space without seeing my fucking videos. You know, I'm surprised like no one came and shot me. Like, look, I like you. I'm just tired of fucking seeing you. You have to go. You know? So the reason why is because of the way people were brought in, right? That old school way. That's why when you see launches, which are awesome and they work great, I mean, duh. But when you see launches, when you watch the internet marketing space for launches specifically, what happens? What's the process? You opt in, and then you opt in like this going, this is probably going to be a bunch of bullshit here. This cocksucker's going to try to sell me something. Fucking, you know, guess I'll opt in anyway because I'm a marketer, but I hate being marketed to. That's just one of the mysteries of the world, you know. Isn't that the weirdest thing? Like the people who complain about marketing are marketers. It's like, dude, what are you doing? It's like a cook complaining about food. What's wrong with you? But I digress. All right, so the guy comes in, arms crossed, and then what do we as marketers in a launch have to do? We have to overcome that by giving tons of free shit away. Like you know, every launch has like 4 or 5 things of cool shit to reverse that opinion. Right? It's all designed to uncross those arms, because when they come in like this, you have to bribe and cajole and prove that you're not an asshole. Even if they've known you forever, you have to reprove that you're not an asshole over and over and over again by giving away tons of free shit in this process. So the question becomes, well, what if we just attracted them differently? Right? What if we just had them come into the funnel in a totally different manner with a different mindset, but still using the same methodology? Don't you think that would be more effective? I did, and I tried it, and it worked. So I personally build my lead generating campaigns now to elicit the 3 magic words. And you know they're magic because they have little lines coming off the circle. That's how you know it's magic, or it's an amoeba. It's one of the 2. All right? Isn't that what an amoeba looks like? I can't remember. I can't believe I remember that. I'm pretty sure that's what an amoeba looks like. So it is not an amoeba? Paramecium. Oh, I was going to say paramecium. Duh. Thank you. Like I didn't know that, you know. Paramecium tattooed on my, never mind. All right, so here's the deal. Here's why you want to elicit that response instead of, okay, let me see what your free shit is. Would you ever ask someone for help if you did not trust them? No. I mean, like we're on the side of the road, the car's broke down, you know, it's like engine smoking, you're all alone, and then like the serial killer van pulls up, you know, and the guy's like, you want to ride? You're like, I'm cool. I don't need any help, right? You just can't, you're like, as our internal rules won't let us do it. It's not even a conscious decision. You just won't do it, right? Would you ever ask someone for help if you did not believe they could help you? No, it just doesn't, we can't. It goes against our psychological rules. There's nothing you sit around and think about. Like when you're responding to an ad, you're not like, do I trust this person? Do I believe they can help me? No, you don't like psychologically consciously think about it, but these are the rules that govern our behavior. So why not go with these rules? See, so therefore, if that is true, wouldn't it also be true, and isn't it also true, that when someone asks us for help, at least on some level, subconsciously or at the little, you know, pinnacle fine line between consciousness and subconsciousness, don't they trust us a little bit if they ask us for help? Yes or no? Don't they on some level believe that we can help them? All right, so consider this. What are the 2 biggest reasons people don't buy our shit? I'll tell you. They either don't want it, or they don't believe us, right? So assuming we're targeting people who want it, which I know that sounds elementary, but I make the error roughly every 90 days still, because I've only been doing this 11 years, I think 15 years, I'll get over that one, right? So assuming we're targeting people who want it, if we can eliminate the trust issue right at the point of entry, don't you think we'll sell more shit? This process is leading in my business right now to a 20 to 33% conversion rate on an $8,000, an $8,000 to $12,000 product. So it's working very, very good for me. There's a formula. This is going great. I got 21 minutes. I think this is perfect time. There's a formula that I use to elicit this response in my lead gen. Would you like it? I'll sell it to you. No. Here's the formula. There's 4 steps to it. Okay. Here's 4 steps to it. Okay. All right. Step number 1, you shouldn't do drugs because they're bad. I hadn't seen that show in forever, man. I should watch it sometime. All right, let's see here. Actually, all right, so I have forgotten how many steps there are. We're going to discover them together. There may or may not be 4 steps. These results are not typical. Your results may vary. None of the things I'm saying are true at all. At any second, you could explode. Do not do anything. Go home. Eat microwave pizza. All right, and sugar. So step number 1 is you have to identify the BAP. So BAP is technical jargon. It stands for big ass problem. Every market has a big ass problem. So when we were working with them chiropractors, I took to doing me some of that market research by calling a chiropractor and saying, what's y'all's big ass problem? And they said the thing that kept them up at night was acquiring new patients, which was lucky because that's what we were in the business of solving, all right? But shit, I mean, sometimes you'll be wrong, you know. Sometimes the big ass problem could have very well been getting the patients to accept the case or whatever, who knows. But in that one, it was in fact acquiring new patients. So every market's gonna have a big ass problem. It's not like, you can't force this. You don't wanna like trick yourself into believing that their big ass problem happens to match whatever you got. Make sure you're accurate in your thinking and your identification of what their big ass problem is. So, first identify the big ass problem. Step 2, is to shine a spotlight on the big ass problem, right? So when I cracked the code on this thing, I wrote a tear sheet ad, which I didn't bring, and I wrote it for chiropractors, and the headline said something like 7,243 chiropractic clinics slated to shut their doors, no, slated to be killed in 2010 by bad economy, right? So I'm shining a huge spotlight on that big ass problem, bringing it right to the front of their mind. Now already we're different because most of everyone else is selling into our crowd as free report reveals how to get new customers. I haven't talked about new customers yet. I'm entering the conversation in their mind, which is I'm scared I'm gonna lose my practice because I ain't getting enough patients, okay? Now, you probably know these first 2 steps already from basic copywriting, but what you might not have been explained to is you have got to take to proving the existence of the big ass problem by featuring third-party data, because nobody believes us anymore. If they ever did, I don't believe me half the time, and it's me, right? Probably why I don't believe me. You got to prove it. So in that ad, the first thing I did, chiropractor's at the dinner table. He gets my tear sheet sent lovingly from Jay. You guys mail tear sheets? It's the greatest thing. I love it. They're fun. Fake newspaper articles. Anyway, he's at the dinner table. You're 7,000 something chiropractic clinics slated to be killed in 2010 by bad economy. The first paragraph says that according to research done by independent firm BizMiner, 40.02% of new chiropractic clinics fail within their first year. Backed it up, didn't I? See, the old method, or the less sophisticated method, which still works okay, would be to go, you got a real big problem, here's how bad your problem is without proving it. You've got to prove it, and it can never, ever be because you said so. It has to be proven by third-party data. It's easy to get the third-party data. You just type in, like, insert whatever here, and then statistics, and you can find the fucking data. Or you can go to yahooanswers.com and ask. And people will tell you, I don't know why they do this, they just do. They like to answer weird shit. You can go there and say, give me scary statistics about X, Y, Z, and they'll give them to you. But you gotta prove it. You have to prove it. So, the 4th step is to twist the knife. What was that, Dennis? That Dennis Leary had that comedy sketch, I'm an asshole, yo. Well, you kind of have to be an asshole in this one, but you're helping them at the end of the day, so they need to wake the fuck up. If they have a big-ass problem and it's serious and you're doing them a favor by smacking them around and saying, hey, come on. So you twist the knife. So in the formula, to give you an example of how I did it in the ad, I started out, let me tell you where I got the number. Does anyone know where I got the number in that headline from? Exactly. So when you use data, like make it real. Never make this shit up. So my headline said 7,242 chiropractors slated to be murdered brutally by the economy in 2010. I got that number by calling my list broker and going, how many chiropractors you got? And he said, this many. I said, oh, okay. And I just multiplied that by the statistic given to get the number. Make sense? So whenever you can, be accurate. You got to be. Pretend you're like a lawyer making a case, right? But actually be accurate. So I start out, shine the spotlight on the big-ass problem, prove it immediately. According to the research company BizMiner.com, 40.02% of new chiropractic clinics close or die or whatever within their first year. And I don't remember the number specifically. I'm doing this by memory. The next phase, I've got their attention, don't I? Like that. Not hypey attention, but Jesus Christ, which is what everyone's programmed to respond to anyway, because normal people read the news and respond to that kind of scary shit, so you might as well make it work in your favor. So the next step is they're on the edge from complacency to action. I've got to push them over the edge by freaking them out. So what I said in my ad was, it's likely to get worse. Why would I say such a thing? Because it is likely to get worse. So then in the ad, I cited how bad the economy was and how bad it's projected to get. According to, economic forecaster Harry S. Dent, the American economic landscape is plummeting towards an all-new low. This could sound the death knell for unprepared chiropractic clinics. You are fucked, dear sir. Wouldn't it be great? You could actually probably do this. I know a guy I've worked with who writes for legitimate magazines. And they play a little game where they'll make the first word of every sentence spell dirty shit and see if they can get away with it. So you could do that in your ad. You could make it say, you, sir, are fucked. And possibly, that would be hilarious. Someone please do that and mail it and just for fun. So the fifth step is to show the light. Actually, before I explain that, I did more knife twisting in my ad. So I cited how bad the economy was, and then I cited that traditional advertising methods were no longer working. I did that because I was selling a new advertising method, this confangled internet fad everyone's talking about, right? So, and I knew that when I spoke to them, I was going to have to compete against the old stuff they were doing. So now, finally, I've spotlighted the big-ass problem. I've illustrated to them the severity of the big-ass problem as a result of this independent third-party data, not just some asshole writing an ad, right? Then I've scared the shit out of them by telling them the truth, which is it is likely to get significantly worse if they're unprepared. Finally, now that they're all freaked out, now I offer the free report, offering the cool shit. So I've just taken the old method and reframed it with some new handy psychology. Yeah? And the way I did that in this ad was to say, but some chiropractors is having the best year ever. Free report reveals exciting new ways some chiropractors are attracting more customers, or more patients in this case, than they've ever had. If you would like one, call XYZ for a free 24-hour pre-recorded message. Which, of course, we are so nice that we actually answered the phone in person. We didn't make them leave their message. We took the call and sold them some shit, right? The end. So that is the formula for generating the proper lead, the person who says, I need help. They are no longer as skeptical as the old way, where they're like, I know you're going to try to fuck me somehow, you asshole. They're like, please help me. You might still try to fuck me, but I'm really posed, so please help me, and then if you help me enough, maybe I'll buy some shit. Make sense? All right, super. So when you take the right market that meets the 4 criteria that I gave you, and then you attract them in the manner which I just explained to you, and you are selling something of massive transformational value for a lot of money, You can outmarket what is commonly known as the ever-living dog shit out of your competition because you're going to have, at least I've been having, and some of our students have been having, very high conversion rates, right? Makes sense? So that is the new formula by which I've been running my business. It's working fabulously. Bill asked me to shave some time off. I have successfully shaved off a lot of time. I have 11 and now 10 minutes and 59 seconds to stand here and ramble at y'all. That's kind of my new list getting stuff, which works great. If you have any questions, I'll take them for the next 10 minutes and 50 seconds.
Hello. I have a very basic question because I'm very new in information marketing.
You're lucky.
Where,
You don't have to unlearn anything.
Where does the original list come from? You just buy a list of chiropractors?
That's what I did, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and I mean, going into the mail is not something to do half-heartedly. So there's an entire universe. I mean, I just spent a lot of money to sit with Dan and have him tell me how to do direct mail properly, and I'll probably still screw it up before I get it right. So it's important to really be very, very clear on exactly who you want and to work with a good list broker. You know, so you can determine by list selects how they are going to meet the criteria we discussed. So for example, let's talk about the ability, and this is, in my opinion, very important, the ability to apply. Or, where'd you go? Oh, there you are, okay. I can hardly see anyway. These contact lenses I borrowed from my wife are defective. The ability or likelihood to apply, for example, can be determined or better improved by list select. For example, investment and time spent in business and investment made to get in business when you're selling B2B increases the likelihood to apply. So a chiropractor who's been in business for a long time has a lot more vested in his business, more likely to apply. A chiropractor who has just bought a new office space, more likely to apply because he wants to pay for that office space. A chiropractor who is, I don't know why I'm harping on chiropractic, it's not like it's saturated or anything, but the chiropractor who is actively marketing via display ads in the Yellow Pages, more likely to apply, more likely to buy based on those behavioral selects. So I cannot even begin to crack the direct mail code for you in 8 minutes and 52 seconds. But that's essentially how you do it. And of course you could attract them on the interwebs via the old PPC and all that kind of stuff, or you could do giant ventures with people who are already selling them stuff, which is probably the best place to begin building your list, in my opinion, because you're getting buyers. And as mean old Dan has said so many times, quite accurately, a buyer is a buyer is a buyer. So you might as well take to going after them buyers. Okay. All right. You, sir, with the microphone.
Thank you. First of all, this is all really great.
Thanks.
You mentioned something about how it's important to get people who will actually implement what you teach them now. Were there ways you could determine ahead of time who would do that, or was that through trial and error testing?
All that stuff I just said was about that. So, well, I mean, it's
how embarrassing.
The person who is already doing X, Y, Z, right? So in my case, in this example, I was selling Get More Patients. The person who's already actively advertising to Get More Patients, far more likely than the guy who lives in bumfuck Egypt who doesn't run Yellow Pages ads, right? So you can go after them. If you're looking at, well, what business should I go after? Go after business where it's extremely difficult to get into business and where it costs a lot of money to start that business because they're highly motivated and vested to do it. So that's how you can make it more likely to attract people who are likely to apply. You don't know until you try, but you can narrow it down. You know, as Bill Meyer said in the Direct Mail Boot Camp seminar that he conducted back in 1903, you want to shoot the enemy planes that are on the ground. You know what I mean? You want to fire at them. So the targeting makes all that more likely.
Great.
Hi, Frank.
Hey, man.
So my market are smokers. So the massive transformation value is there if they can stop smoking. Now, the problem is, and you know that better than I, of course, that in marketing you cannot make money on selling people to be healthier. They only want spend money once they are ill and they want to get cured. So what I then think that the big ass problem for a smoker is that all the methods that they use, that they fail. And they know that because they tried already several things, and that's why they are so skeptical. So how would you overcome that skepticism, and how would you then build up the value to the smoker to stop smoking?
Well, you don't really overcome the skepticism through the ad. You scare the shit out of them and make them ask for help through the ad. So if everyone is saying you're going to die or whatever, and it's not working, there's probably and likely another hot button, right? So I smoked for forever, cigarettes, forever, and so one kind's good, one kind's bad. So, and I quit because girls didn't like it, you know, and I was like, this is really interfering with my ability to do something that's a lot more fun than smoking. So that's why I quit. And it was a motherfucker to quit. You know, I mean, I chewed so much gum that I like literally got scar tissue on my tongue and cheeks that I was constantly chewing. I quit smoking while I was making a record, incidentally, which is the worst time to quit because you're in a fucking studio forever. Just like, is it my turn to play yet? No, okay, you know. So I would hit them where it hurts even worse, right? Which might be, and I don't know this, you know, I don't know if this is the proper angle, but there's probably one out there, which is your children don't respect you, people laugh behind your back, you're that ugly person that nobody likes, you know, is it you they're whispering about in the corner? I would go for that and then prove it and be like, you know, according to a legitimate research firm here, 90% of people secretly want to murder smokers in their sleep or something, you know, and there's got to be a statistic out there like that because it's actually true, you know, I mean, it's pretty fucking gross. So it really is, no disrespect to anybody, but that shit is nasty, man, come on. So that's the angle, right? You gotta zag where they're not zigging or whatever that thing is. See what I mean? Find the real driver, because clearly you're gonna die is not the driver. You know, it's not. They're quitting for other reasons, and it's likely to be social pressure.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. And I got one Mo, and then the lovely and talented Bill Glazer is going to come up. So it would be you.
Okay, so the last 6 months I've been in this market, same with you guys, the local business. So 2 questions. One is, what exactly is the packaging you're selling for $8,000 to $12,000? And then, in my experience, a lot of the small businesses have been bombarded the last year to 2 years with this kind of information. So exactly how are you differentiating yourself?
The sales process helps us be different. Yeah. So what I'm doing in my business, well, that's a two-pronged question. One of them was a great setup for me to make a pitch, which I can't because I don't have enough time.
Come on.
But essentially,
Go ahead.
Kevin and I are teaching my list and his list and anyone who wants to know how to create a high-ticket offer, how to attract leads properly, and then how to close those leads in an intimate selling environment, not one that requires nudity, but typically one done over the telephone. And that's how we're getting those results. If you are interested in that, you can go to onemanmillions.com. You spell that out, number onemanmillions.com. You pay $97. You request a strategy session from someone in our office. If you do not like the strategy session and you think it was a big, horrible pitch, we will pay you $200 back. We're very confident that you'll get benefit from the strategy session. What was the other question? That one was the most important one, by the way.
That is the most important.
Yeah.
What are you packaging? $8,000 to $12,000. What does that look like for the small businesses? How you?
So we're testing it to small businesses now. I just wrote a lead generation piece that bombed because I was bad at my list selection.
Okay.
Right? So what we're selling them, we're going after specific businesses with high tickets, and we're teaching them how to attract the right type of person who is likely to buy the high ticket thing, and then we're teaching them how to actually sell it and how to restructure their pricing. So think instead of a dentist going, hey, you know, come in and come back every month for 3,000 years and we'll do this. Now the dentist says, oh, come in for a free teeth whitening, and then he upsells them into a $12,000 package. And we teach the psychology of all of that. And we're not necessarily going after dentists. I'm just using that as an example, right? Sure. And that's it, ladies and gentlemen. So sorry. It is my pleasure to present the lovely and talented, probably the best kisser in all of Maryland, Dr. Bill Glazer, Proctologist of the Year. Thank you, Bill.
You know, no, don't leave, Ryan, don't leave for a second. That's great. And did you ever think you would live to see the day? I never did, where Frank Kern would be telling you to use direct mail. So it's good. You've come around to the dark side of marketing.
As I told Dan when he was seeking my advice, as he always does, I said, if you believe that, I said, you know, Dan, I got a feeling this direct mail fad's going to be pretty big. Yeah.
So when you were in my office about 2 years ago, right? The conversation we had was Direct mail is the keys to the kingdom.
I think, yeah, I think if you can make direct mail work, you're done. I mean, it's over because it is not as easy as just buying a list and going, but it's close once you get the right list and you do all the work that's required. It takes work. I mean, it takes work and it takes money. There's no way to screw around at it, but there's a way to accelerate the success of it for sure by making well-educated decisions on how to go forward. God, that sounded so legitimate and real, didn't it? Wow.
Well, let's give a big hand for what.
Can I go?